Okay, here's a fun question for you. How many times can you run the same busted quest lines, report the same bugs, grind the same recycled mobs, and retrace the same gathering routes before your brain turns to soup, your soul packs its bags, and you're left staring at the screen like a brain-dead MMO junkie waiting for the game's release? If you're knee-deep in Ashes of Creation's Alpha 2 like I am, you probably already know the answer. At least one too many. This test phase has everything. The skeleton of naval combat, sieges that feel like medieval PowerPoint presentations, and systems with less substance than an influencer apology video. If you're still playing, you're either genuinely loving the experience, or you've Stockholm Syndromed yourself into believing bug hunting is content. Either way, congratulations, you're not a player. You're a part-time QA in a fantasy skin, grinding through a world where the dopamine's on pre-order. Look, I know how this sounds, but this video isn't a hit piece. Ashes of Creation is still shaping up to be something special, and I'm very excited to see how it will turn out. But that's just it. It's still shaping up to that vision. Most of the new systems still feel like tech demos thanks to their placeholder status. Just functional enough to let players test properly while the real features wait their turn, somewhere behind the curtain marked soon. But burnout isn't a badge of honor. It's a slow crawl into apathy. And if you want to survive testing fatigue and actually enjoy what this game can become in Phase 3, the smartest move might be to take a step back now so you're not completely dead inside when the next test finally lands somewhere around May 1st. Let's start with the obvious. Ashes of Creation is still in active alpha testing, and that means everything you touch is a work in progress. And honestly, if you're still enjoying it, gathering, crafting, exploring the coasts, or even experimenting with naval combat, keep going. Seriously, if the process of watching systems evolve in real time is fun for you, don't let burnout posts on Reddit or sarcastic VTubers talk you out of it. But if you're finding yourself a little frayed around the edges, you're not alone. Because for all of the promise Ashes holds in the future, a lot of the new content right now is more skeleton than structure. Take naval combat, for example. Introduced this past weekend, it's a major milestone for the game. Ships, sea battles, and a revamped zone to explore. But by the dev's own admission during streams, it's still early and experimental. Controls are in, ship types are limited, and bugs are expected. Some players have praised the direction, while others note that it still feels stiff for a lack of feedback, which is understandable in a first implementation. If you find yourself thinking, wow, this is ambitious, but also kind of janky, well, that's exactly what it is. Not broken, just unfinished. Then there are sieges, node-based, large-scale PvP events that push server performance and player cooperation. The core loop is functioning. Signups, objectives, and group combat are all being tested, but the deeper systems like relic mechanics, siege equipment, or layered objectives, not to mention node destruction, haven't fully rolled out yet. And depending on the day, fights are mostly stress tests rather than an actual game. Some testers are loving the scale, and others are hoping for more polish before diving in again. And that's just the reality of Alpha 2. You're not just playing the game, you're helping build it. That can be exciting as well as exhausting. So if your sessions are starting to feel more like a job than a joyride, if you're logging in out of obligation to yourself or your guild rather than curiosity or enjoyment, it might be time to hit pause. You're not quitting, you're just pacing yourself. Because most of these systems aren't here to entertain you yet. They're here to collect data, expose flaws, and get refined over time. This is a long road, and it's totally fine to step off the trail for a while so you're not running on fumes by the time the destination actually shows up. So if Alpha 2 has started feeling like the second job, here's the good news. The version you're playing now isn't the final draft. It's the developer's notepad, and the next rewrite is coming in Phase 3, which is speculated to arrive around May 1st according to their roadmap. Whether it's on time or delayed by a few weeks, it gives the team time to refine what's already here and begin rolling out the next layer of systems. Think less proof of concept and more Phase 2 with a little more functionality. And there's a lot to look forward to. The naval system, for example, isn't staying in its current form. More ships, smoother controls, more meaningful interactions, whether it's ship-to-ship combat, exploration, or trade, they're all a part of the plan. The March rollout was just laying out the blanket for the picnic. Phase 3 should see the goodies start to be introduced in a more refined state. The sieges will also see major improvements. Right now, they're a crash test, a way to hammer the servers and gather raw feedback. But over time, the devs plan to layer in the systems that give sieges more tactical weight, relic mechanics, objective variety, and progression rewards that turn random chaos into structured PvP conflict. You're not just fighting over bragging rights, you're fighting for the future of your node and the resources that it holds. Even features that launched in Phase 2, like freeholds, artisan crafting, caravans, and node progression, are all still being revised. Reddit testers have called out clunky UI, slow systems, and awkward flows, and Intrepids acknowledged these pain points publicly. Phase 3 will be where that feedback starts to get folded into the build. According to the roadmap, Phase 3 test goals are expanded content and features. I figure that means polish, balance passes, and system tuning to make everything work better. So, if you're on the verge of burnout just like I am, here is a crazy thought. Maybe wait until the game's trying to be fun again. Because right now it's not. It's just trying to work. This isn't the sprint to launch, it's the structural engineering phase. But Phase 3, when servers are up 24/7, that might be the time to let go and let yourself fully dive into Vera. Taking a break now isn't giving up, it's just buying a front row seat for when the real game starts to arrive. And if you've already done your part in Phase 2, Phase 3 might be the perfect time to come back with fresh eyes, a refreshed attitude, and a drive to fully dive in once again at the start of what might be the most interesting phase in the alpha test. Let's be real for a second. Testing an MMO isn't the same as playing one. Sure, the character creator still kind of works, the world still looks pretty good, I guess, and you can absolutely lose hours exploring Vera. But when you're logging in to play broken quests, retest crafting bugs, and replay Siege signups for the 6th time this month, it stops being about discovery and it starts feeling like you're stuck in a never-ending patch cycle. And here's the tricky part. You might still love the game. You believe in the vision, the systems, the potential, but even the most dedicated players can hit a wall when they're pouring hours into a version of the game that's constantly getting wiped, patched, and rebuilt from the ground up. Burnout doesn't always hit like a freight train, it creeps in. One day you're theory crafting your perfect freehold layout, and the next you're staring at the login screen thinking, maybe I'll just check the patch notes instead. The Reddit thread that inspired this video is full of the same quiet exhaustion. One user said, "I'm stepping away. Too many crashes, not enough fun." Others chimed in with similar stories. Longtime testers who've hit their limit, not because the game is bad, but because they're worn down by the unfinished nature of it all. And that's completely valid. Testing is valuable, but burning out now doesn't help anyone. Not you, not the devs, not the game. If you keep pushing through when your brain's already checked out, you risk turning excitement into resentment, and that's a lot harder to come back from. Stepping back now means you'll still get to be excited later, before cynicism sets in and turns anticipation into apathy. It gives you space to miss the game, to come back curious instead of cranky. One Redditor put it perfectly. "I'm happier playing something else and checking in on updates monthly." That's not quitting, that's just pacing yourself. There's no reward for suffering through every bug and rollback just to say you were there. That's what the alpha key bonuses are for. We all paid for those. The only thing you win is burnout and maybe a forum badge if they're feeling generous. So let's say you've hit that wall. You're tired of rubber banding through Winstead, crafting through clunky UIs, or wondering when leveling through quests will ever work properly. You don't want to give up on Ashes, but you also don't want to spend the time playing a game that's about to be wiped for many players. Good news, you've got options to fill that time. If you're still craving an MMO, there's a whole buffet out there. Final Fantasy XIV is the gold standard right now. Polished, story-rich, and built by a team that knows how to launch expansions without detonating the servers. At least since 1.0, The Realms Reborn, I think they blew everything up then. Guild Wars 2 offers fast-paced combat, dynamic events, and no subscription fees, so you can pop in and out without guilt. And if you want something with more action and ocean, Black Desert Online has a naval system that actually floats. Even New World, for all of its rough patches, has stabilized into something worth poking at again. And if you're feeling nostalgic, WoW Classic has that old school charm, complete with terrible drop rates and people arguing about raid buffs like it's 2006 again. Or maybe you're ready for a total change of pace. Single-player games that don't crash when you test a new build. Elden Ring offers brutal combat and vast exploration with 0 patch notes to read. Baldur's Gate 3 will let you romance a vampire, explode a goblin, and save the world, all without waiting for your guild to get together to do so. If you prefer something more hands-on and immersive, survival games can scratch the same creative itch. Valheim gives you building, exploration, and combat in a stylized Viking world with a finished loop that respects your time, more or less. Sons of the Forest throws you into a brutal horror survival scenario with base building and cannibal neighbors. And if you want the absolute opposite of Vera's chaos, Core Keeper or Terraria will let you chill underground with a pickaxe and 0 drama. The point is, taking a break from Ashes doesn't mean quitting MMOs or games in general. It means giving yourself space to actually enjoy something that's finished. One Redditor said it best: "I'm loving Final Fantasy XIV's stability while AOC cooks." That's the mindset. Let Ashes bake. Let your sanity breathe. Vera's not going anywhere, and when it finally comes together, you'll be better off returning with a clear head and 0 resentment in your backpack. So here's the takeaway. Ashes of Creation is shaping up to be something big, but right now it's still just that. It's shaping up to be something. Naval combat, sieges, artisan systems, they're all in, sort of, but they're not all done. Testers aren't here for fun, they're here for feedback. And when you're burning hours in a half-built world, the fun will eventually run out. Phase 3 is where things will start coming together. More systems, more polish, fewer placeholders, and if you're feeling worn down in Phase 2, stepping away now isn't giving up. It's recharging for when the game's finally ready to give something back to you. And hey, like I said before, if you're still enjoying the ride, keep going. Every bug you squash helps shape Vera. But if you're part of the growing crowd quietly backing away from the login screen, just know you're not alone. And you're not missing the show. You're just skipping the rehearsals. So play something else. Catch your breath, and when Phase 3 rolls around, come back with fresh eyes, full health, and a critical strike chance against burnout. So, what are you gonna do? That's all for today. You're welcome.